And now, the only survival show that'll have your back in a ballroom blitz. Everybody attack! In this episode, we sit down with Glen Tate to discuss new thoughts on convincing loved ones to prepare. Feather Tickler, sold separately. Howdy, and welcome to In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast. This is episode 136. We're your hosts, Aaron
and Jason.
And you are in the rabbit hole, safe and sound.
But Glen, welcome back, man.
Well, thanks for having me. I had such a good time last time. I think it was the best interview I've ever done. It was by far the funniest, and because you guys are funny, so I'm excited for good stuff. Looking forward to it.
So I think today we're going to kind of run the gamut of topics, it sounds like. I think I know one of the things that we wanted to revisit from the last time was the idea of persuading others, especially those around you, to prepare.
Let's go.
But before we dive in, a quick message. Supporting Roving Horde members just like you help keep the show going. Become a member today. Visit itrh.net and become part of the Roving Horde Armada. Again, that's itrh.net.
Now that we've had some time to think about it and kind of revisit it, besides maybe waterboarding or shock therapy or I don't know, feather ticklers or something, how do you see being the best way to really persuade people as far as, because obviously, I mean, there's always going to be friends that are going to be resistant to it, and we can only do so much when it comes to that. But, at the end of the day, when it comes to family, especially like wives and husbands and things like that, them not being on board can be perhaps as dangerous to our preparedness efforts as something else critical failing us. So what do you think as far as different methodologies of really persuading others to get involved?
I always found that the pair of pliers works very well.
Oh, that's just on you, Jason. That's just on you.
I like to take a Glock 19 and stick it in somebody's throat and then try to persuade them. So no.
Yeah.
That
I thought I was nuts. But okay, go for it, man. Roll with it.
It's a combination of, first of all, and this sounds boring, and this is going to be a bit anticlimactic thing. So go ahead and hit your pause button, everybody, and go get a cup of coffee and get a little jack. But you got to have credibility, and you got to have time with people. That's the thing that's a little boring, is the time with people. And this is especially true. The more time we spend together, and we've been several decades, the more we get to know each other. I know that sounds, boring, but it's true. I mean, it's not boring spending time with her, but that relationship in general, not just the prepping part, but all the other parts of it, has to be as strong as humanly possible. I consider going out to dinner with my wife and having a great time with her and just talking about whatever, because we don't talk about this topic, to be honest. I consider that prepping. I'm getting her, more connected to me, and I'm more connected to her. And that helps when it comes to the persuasion time on game day, as I call it. And so there's that, and credibility I mentioned. This is really tricky. I'm a risk, but even I have to curb my risk-taking behavior on this. And that is making predictions, and usually little ones. And then the person you're trying to persuade sees that you're right all or most of the time. Obviously, if you overdo it and you say at 8:03 a.m. on this day, the stock market will drop 1,200 points, you're going to be wrong, and you're going to fritter away credibility. And you really only have one shot. When it comes to big predictions, the one you make that doesn't come true, you're pretty much done in the eyes of somebody who's already skeptical about these things and already doesn't want to believe these things. Mm-hmm. So the credibility thing is a tough one. You can have credibility a variety of ways. One is making small predictions, as I say. Another one, and this is counterintuitive, but I found this is effective, exceeding my wife's expectations. And I'll speak about persuading my wife, because she seems like the only person on the planet that is not persuaded about what's going on. And that is exceeding her expectations. She assumes, for example, when a class New York Stock Exchange quits trading for 4 hours, she expected me to start loading up the truck and freaking out. And I didn't freak out. And so that's very reassuring to her. And that shows that I have good decision-making skills and, good judgment and all of that other stuff. So that's building up credibility. And the other thing is having a really solid plan. If, let's say, the person you're trying to persuade is aware that you're prepping, but is still a little bit, distant on it. If your plan for prepping is to get a bunch of $2,500 1911s, that's not a real good plan. It's cool. Don't get me wrong, but that's not a good plan. And having a solid plan, addressing the things that the person you're trying to persuade needs to have taken care of, and more than just water and stuff that's boring but totally necessary. Here's a really clear one. We talked about this in our last interview. Women have, menstrual supply needs. And I found that the few women that I've ever mentioned that I have 1,200 feminine hygiene items plus some reusable ones. By the way, I did a blog post once. People can go look at it because it's kind of funny if you don't mind me saying it. It was, my name's Glen Tate and I buy tampons. But it laid out this whole thing, gunfighter Glen Tate guy is like buying tampons. And we talked about it last time because the checker at Walmart, when I went with 2 cart loads of feminine hygiene products, she said, "Oh, you're so considerate." And it was like, I could have taken her home with me, and she was cute too. So anyway, there are side benefits, by the way, guys. But thinking it out and thinking what that person you're trying to persuade needs, because if you're trying to persuade a woman, and most of the time we're talking about men trying to persuade women, most of the time. Mm-hmm. So I'll speak it to that. And you can show that you thought of things that she needs. And again, it's not just beef jerky and AR-15s. That's cool and stuff, and I like both of them, but it's not complete. And so you've got that plan, you've got the credibility, and you've got the baseline relationship. Here's another reason that baseline, mundane, boring, non-prepping relationship is important to have. It sounds obvious, but it hit me the other day. My wife needs to really, really want to be around me in all settings. And so when I say, I'm going to go here because the country's falling apart and we're going to be safe, she's got to think, oh crap, I don't want to be without him. He's pretty cool to have around. I know that sounds stupid and I'm not trying to be funny, but it's very fundamental. So those are some things to persuade people that are really close to you, especially spouses, as far as, the wider circle of people, neighbors, coworkers and stuff. I've given up. They're probably all going to die. And I kind of shrug. I know that sounds like a complete dick thing to say. I don't really mean that. It's easy for me to say now, but when it's happening, it's going to be harder. But yeah, I'm done persuading people. They just think I'm a lunatic. I'm giving away details that I shouldn't give away. Some portion of them will try to come to my place, and I'm going to have, as we talked about in our first interview, I'm going to have some tough decisions to make that, quite honestly, I don't want to put myself in a position of, having to point guns at people if I can avoid it. And so I'm done. Most of the people, as I sit here in Olympia, Washington, in the parking lot where I work in the state capitol, I look around at all the people walking around. Most of these people are the walking dead. And as far as when this comes, I don't mean zombies. I just mean they're all done for, or they're going to be huddled in their houses, crying and sniveling and waiting for the government to save them from a bunch of gangs. And I don't want any of that to happen. I'm not being funny or facetious. It's going to happen. And everyone I'm looking at right now had the same opportunity that I had and that you guys have to prepare for this. This idea has come up more than once in their mind. And they were the ones that wanted to be cool and didn't want to rock the boat and didn't want to be the weirdo and didn't want to prepare because it's, quote, weird. They wanted to be accepted by their peers and not feel, quote, weird, more than they wanted to prepare for things that are coming. And so, sorry, guys. It's been nice knowing you. I hope everybody lives and there's a great outcome. I don't think that's going to happen. And stay about, let's see, what's POW's effective range right now with this 308? Stay about 660 yards away from my place, because ain't closer than 660 yards, and POW's going to take care of business. So anyway, those are my thoughts. And I know that sounds really cold, but you guys mentioned the word reality, and that's just reality. And I'm not going to die or put people that I care about in jeopardy because some dumbass, didn't take care of him or herself when by now in mid 2015, if you can't see the writing on the wall, if you can't see the Chinese stock market has effectively stopped trading as of now, hackers, pretty clearly hackers, stopping the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, we could talk for 2 hours just laying out bullet points of all the things that are signs out there. How about the state of Texas taking its gold back? Jeez,
right.
Louise.
Yeah, and there has been very little play about that in the media.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that stuns me. And it's weird, though. There's been enough discussion of it that people who are paying attention kind of know about it. A classic example, financial advisor, that my wife picked, that's a nice guy. And I went on record and I go, listen, you're a nice guy. I don't mean to be rude, but all this money on this sheet of paper, it's all going up in smoke. So do what you guys want. Try to make as much money as you guys think you can. I'm not going to be a dick, and I'm not going to get in the way of it, and I'm not going to fold my arms and throw a tantrum. But to be clear, none of this matters because it's all going away. And by the way, he's not used to people like saying that.
I imagine not.
But I give you that background about the guy to say this. He had heard about, because I don't know, they watch CNBC all day long or whatever their source information is. He heard about this Texas thing, and he had some saying, oh, yeah, well, it's all politics. They just want to, they're placating conservative voters in Texas, whatever. So my point is that people, financial advisors and others, have heard of this Texas thing. The general population may not have. But once again, I'm guessing now, I'm speculating, this financial planner doesn't want to be, quote, weird and doesn't want to rock the boat and doesn't want to be an alarmist, right? Oh, the worst thing you can be in American society right now is a, quote, alarmist.
Right.
Well, guess what? The alarm bells are going off, everybody. So react to it. So anyway, yeah, people know about it, and I don't know what people are doing right now. It's summer. They're going to water parks. What else are they doing? Let's see. Oh, baseball season's going on. So we got to talk endlessly about how much the Seattle Mariners suck. Boy, that takes up about 45 minutes of my day. And I nod and I go, yeah, they do suck. So anyway, that's what people are focused on.
Yeah, it really is. And I think going back to the Texas thing for a minute, I think you did touch on a point there. A lot of people are ignoring it, simply thinking it's a political stunt. And I'm not putting stock in that Greg Abbott could be doing it as a political stunt. If it was an isolated incident, I would be like, oh, this is totally just him trying to give his finger to the Obama administration. But he's not the only one. Texas isn't the only one. I mean, we've seen Germany tried to recall their gold not too long ago, and there was we're not going to give it to you all right away. We're gonna give it to you a little bit at a time. And there was a few other instances of stuff like that. So there's blood in the water, so to speak, where it's not an isolated incident.
Exactly.
To roll back just a little bit further, you almost feel bad about talking about the non-preppers. The way I look at it, we need them. They're cannon fodder. They're our camouflage so that we can get out of here. If it was just the preppers and us moving around, we'd be open targets. But with them, we can blend into the crowd and get out of here. So as far as feeling bad, I don't, because to me that they're my safety net. They're the ones that are going to play cover for me while I sneak out the back door.
Nice. And tell all the sheeple, hey, there's like a National Guard machine gun nest over there, and be like, yeah, I think there's a bunch of food over there, and they all rush the machine gun nest while I go the other way.
Exactly.
That's horrible.
To quote Airplane, there's a sale at Penny's. So
Yeah.
Triple reward points.
Right. And to give you a compliment, you were talking about how you should set up, you're having positive influences on the person you're trying to influence to be a prepper. You had posted up on Facebook about the China crash, and you did that up on like a Saturday almost. I told my wife about it. I was like, hey, watch this. It's probably going to crash on Monday. And she was like, what are you talking about? I'm just like, just watch China, because we've been watching our own portfolios. She just kind of blew it off. And then she texted me later on Monday. She was like, oh my God, you're right. China's crashing into this and that or whatever. And I was like, bingo, she's finally starting to see the light. She's really starting to see this is reality and not just a hobby that I do.
That is so cool. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. By the way, the cool thing about pointing out me putting something up is if it turned out not to be true, you could be like, that Glenn guy's all wrong. And then that way you're not wrong. See, I'm in the political business, and figuring out how to blame other people for stuff is what I do all day long.
That is awesome.
And to circle back to, and then we'll come back to the fire sale that is the economy going on right now, going back to persuading others. You know, it was funny when my girlfriend and I first started dating about 8 years ago. She came from a very devout Buddhist family, and it was very non-violent, guns weren't okay and stuff like that. But it was interesting as we started dating and stuff, and she started getting used to guns. I mean, she didn't really have a problem with it, but it just wasn't part of her personal mental schema.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things early on I said is, hey, if you ever want to do your CHL or anything like that, I'll cover the cost of everything. And I won't even try to mansplain things for you. I will not be the one to teach you. I have a very good friend who was Secret Service presidential detail for about 8 years and was one of their head tactical trainers for a long time. I will actually send you to that guy and pay for as many lessons as you want to take. There are no barriers to entry besides your time. And she didn't do it at first, and it was a little frustrating for me, but as she got a little older, because there's about a 10-year difference between us, and her eyes opened up a little bit more, and she got out on her own for a little while, and I wasn't there constantly to sort of be her bodyguard, she eventually did circle back and said, hey, is that offer still good? And at the time, we were broken up for a little while, and I said, absolutely. If I make a promise, I don't take it back. I was like, even though we're not together right now, I will honor that promise I made. And she ended up taking me up on it. And even I bought one of those CERT laser training pistols, and she even ended up stealing mine, and I had to go buy myself another one. And she uses that darn thing every day now, and she's become a pretty impressive shot. Now I just need to get her into understanding moving and shooting in team tactics.
Well, see, two things there. One, the credibility. You had a good plan, right? You had a good plan. That's critical. I mean, saying this guy used to be on the presidential detail, that's a really good plan for a CHL instructor. And, of course, you took yourself out of the ego loop by not trying to be the one to teach. And, by the way, guys, don't even try to teach your significant other how to shoot. It never, ever works. Please don't try that. The other thing was, you mentioned been together 8 years. I really picked up on that. You guys have, a huge foundation, basically. And that also helps with all of this. If you were some random guy, she wouldn't take you up on it. So those are applying the persuasion principles. And she's open-minded. She's probably very intelligent. She can look around and see stuff going on. And so you've got that combination going. And you handled it the way I hope others do, which is not being the big shot. And because you actually care about the result, right? You care about her carrying and being safe.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing was, like, I made the offer and then I didn't push it. I would occasionally remind her of it, but it was always just, hey, just a reminder. It's on the table. That's still good. And eventually she did pick me up on it. I didn't cram it down her throat or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a big takeaway for people. I think a lot of times people, especially with couples, they don't realize, and men joke about women nagging them, but we can be just as bad about nagging women about things. And I think that's the thing that whether you're a man or a woman, not pushing something down somebody's throat until the point where they're like, okay, I'm not going to do it just out of spite now.
Yeah, and you know why it's so hard to have that reserved approach that you were describing is because the stakes are so high.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If I wanted to get my wife into bird watching or, I don't know, painting or something like that, I wouldn't have this approach of like, you need to do this or you and maybe me are going to die. Okay, that's not true of bird watching or like painting. And given the stakes, it amps everything up. And that makes it even harder to have this slow, polite, for lack of a better word, approach. And that is tough. I'm not a super patient guy, and it's even harder for me, but I think I'm pulling it off just because, as I say, the stakes are so high. I understand the stakes of rushing this. And she says, you know what, you're crazy. And then it comes down to game day, as I call it, that moment where we all go, okay, this is going on and we're going to bug out and we're going to do this. On game day, she's just shaking her head going, what? This is like the 39th time you told me that the world is ending. And then I have a big decision to make. Those of you that read book one know what decision I'm making. A lot of you think I'm an asshole for doing it. But anyway, I'll tease that for those who haven't read book one and you can hear what I'm talking about. But anyway, no, the stakes are super high and we need to act accordingly.
That is so true. So true.
So, have you gotten her to do any tactical training, even like home defense training?
Not at all. I haven't. Yeah, I haven't even tried. She doesn't even know this. She has a 38 special with a Crimson Trace laser that's hers, and that's my solution. Is here you go, simple to use, all that other stuff. And the other day I got an NRA membership card, in the envelope, and it had like the NRA thing. And I noticed the envelope was turned upside down, so she didn't even have to look at and be sort of annoyed by and confronted by the NRA symbol. Gun stuff, gun magazine, she like flips them over. Joke's on her, there's guns on the front and the back of a gun magazine. But no, and guns are just something that they're just icky and yucky. She tolerates me doing it. I don't care if people think I'm a wuss about this. It's just how it's worked. I still keep guns in the gun safe in a gun sock. She's seen one 22 AR-22 Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. Highly recommended, by the way. Get the Magpul package. Don't get the Sporter package like I did. But anyway, she's seen that, and she's shot a 22 revolver, and she knows I have, quote, guns in the plural. She has no freaking idea how many guns. And so I don't confront her with it. It could be a big flaw as far as me not pushing the tactical stuff, but saying, here you go. I mean, if I have to be away or something like that, here you go. Here's a 38 special. Shoot till you stop them, that kind of stuff. That's the thing. The other thing with my wife in particular is that given that she not only has no interest, but has mild hostility towards tactical training, she's going to be with me I am her tactical training, basically. And now that could break down and she may not be around me, but I cannot think, and believe me, I'm not even kidding. I spend hours thinking about like how to solve this problem. I solve a bunch of problems all day long, and some of them are easy and some of them are hard. This one's like, uncrackable, but I can't think of a practical way to get her to do this stuff. And so I'm just having to kind of go to plan B. And, the other cool thing is it's not just me. I got my real life team, and we've had several conversations. Stuff's going down. You don't hear from me. Go grab my wife. You all know where I live. You've been over my house several times. They know where the keys are. And so it's not just me. There are others. It's not perfect. I'd love for her to be as on board as I am. It's not going to happen. You got to play the hand you're dealt. And I think of it this way. I better get used to having to play the hand I'm dealt. A couple months from now, I might be sitting there going, oh, I'm really pissed that the electricity is off, and sitting around boo-hooing and crying. Guess what? I'm playing the hand I've been dealt. Okay, this is not ideal. How do I deal with this? And I might as well start practicing that mentally right now with something that's very, very important, like my wife's safety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that goes back to understanding, or not necessarily understanding, practicing patience and just understanding the situation and not wasting energy on something that you can't change in the here and now, and just hope that, hey, something comes up in the future, or at least give it time to simmer, and maybe you'll come up with a better idea later for how to persuade that person. And I think that's something that people sometimes miss, is sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. And it's, what is it? The Alcoholics Anonymous has the strength to accept the things we cannot change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that is swirling around in this mix of uncertainty is that she may just, because she's very smart, she may just realize one day, there's a classic phrase, who was it? Ralph Waldo Emerson. Everyone learns about geology the day after an earthquake. And I think that, right? And so I think that when events are happening, again, with some credibility and some working on things slow that has happened, in the previous years, when there's a big crisis and, my guys roll up in a freaking convoy, depending on what kind of, permissive or non-permissive or semi-permissive environment we're in, body armor and stuff like that. It's like, we're going now. I think maybe she just goes, well, yeah. And the cool thing about her personality, I mean, it's frustrating as hell, but it's actually kind of cool. Prepping will have been her idea the whole time. If she changes her mind, this was actually, she's like Hillary Clinton's position on gay marriage. Oh, no, we can't have gay marriage. Oh, yeah, I'm all for gay marriage. No, that's how it'll be. Mm. And I'm like, okay, I don't care. I don't have to be right. She needs to come along. That's what matters. Mm-hmm. And so I could see that happening. And I try not to to look at things one-dimensionally. I don't always succeed at that, but I try not to look at things one-dimensionally and just focus, okay, how do I persuade her? I assume that she won't change her mind. How do I change her mind? How do I change her mind? No, she can snap her fingers. And it's like the character Chloe in book 8, who is against all this stuff. And then literally in an instant, when she realizes stuff's going bad, after nagging her husband for months and years about him not getting a gun or not getting a cabin, now she's like, hey, why didn't you get a gun? Why didn't you get a cabin? I could see that. Now, how that turns out for her, people got to read and find out. But there could be some of that kind of stuff. And I don't mean to imply like my wife would be hypocritical or anything. And if my wife wants to say she was for this the whole time, like I say, I'm happy as can be. And I'm not going to, say I told you so, because that gets me nothing. That's old thinking. That's pre-collapse thinking. That's a pre-collapse marital argument that has no bearing on anything, and it's only going to slow us down. We need to be a team during the crisis. We absolutely have to be a team, and I'm putting myself and her and others at risk by having some stupid argument that means nothing. She's married to a very good man. I hope she realizes it.
Oh, man.
I'm going to use that line. That's all I have to say.
I think I may have to steal that too.
So does she have she doesn't have a CHL then?
No.
Okay.
Oh my God, no.
Okay. I just convinced my wife, because she's had a CHL forever, but she wasn't carrying. And I finally put 2 guns in her car, and I was like, one of these goes in your bag, and then the other one stays in the truck. And when it's in the truck, it needs to be sitting right beside you so you can grab it, not underneath your seat that you're not going to be able to grab if someone walks up to you. She was like, well, okay. And it's probably been about 3 or 4 months. And she finally came back to me. She was like, all right, so I'm putting one gun in my bag. Not a day later, there was a situation where a couple of guys were kind of doing some fishy stuff in the parking lot. And she just kind of had this weird feeling. And she walks out of an office, and these guys are kind of like walking towards her. So she turns around, unzips her bag, puts her hand in it, and then turns around and walks back into the office. When she does that, the guys kind of look down and they're like, oh, okay. And then they turn around and they walk the opposite direction. And I was like, exactly.
Yeah. That was the thing that I ran into with Jen. Like, it was so many years of, hey, this is still on the table, no pressure. But it wasn't until the period of time where, when she was in medical school, that she was living near the medical school, and it's in a really seedy part of town. And all of a sudden it was compounded. Okay, Aaron's not around anymore to be my personal bodyguard, and I'm living in a pretty shady area, and I'm walking to school every day. And that was when it finally clicked for her. And it goes back to what you were saying, the day after an earthquake, everybody becomes a geologist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's nothing more gratifying than your significant other turning around looking at you and going, you're right. That came in handy. I felt that much more.
Oh, you actually got it. You're right.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you.
I know. I was proud of myself. I gave myself a pat on the back. I was like, yes. All right. Sorry. Sidetracked.
By the way, Aaron, if she's in medical school, I presume she eventually would be a physician. You and me are going to have some long support group conversations.
Yes, we
being
are.
Married female physician.
Yes, we are.
It's not all it's cracked up to be. So, I hope it turns out well for you.
Well, thank you, sir. I look at it this way, besides the fact that I absolutely love and adore her. It's, post-apocalypse, I have a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that thought's crossed my mind too.
Yeah.
I'll have plenty of drugs.
There you go. Yes, you will.
My wife's in pharmaceutical sales.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Glenn, man, it is awesome as always. Hopefully, we can wrangle you into at least one more episode this season. But as always, man, I love having you on the show.
Always.
Good stuff. You guys do a nice job.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
As always, you can find links to Glen Tate and other resources in the show notes for this episode at www.intherabbithole.com/E136. And be sure to tune in next week. We'll be welcoming back Marshall of Going Gear. We're going to go in depth on bags, packs, and boots for surviving daily life or the apocalypse. And remember, supporting Roving Horde members just like you help keep the show going. Become a member today. Visit itrh.net and become part of the Roving Horde Armada. Again, that's itrh.net. From the Lone Star State, till next time, stay safe and sound.
West.